Welcome to the WWE podcast. Tonight's a very different show, as normally we look back, we react to what has happened. Tonight we're looking forward to what has yet to happen into 2022, looking to who could potentially dethrone Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar for that matter, who could be returning on the men's and women's side, who could be getting called up from NXT, and so much more. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys. So stay right here. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor to get everything going. Are you looking for a fun, unique, new show to listen to? Check out the Protectors podcast. First of all, they're available everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, and also on Patreon, so you can support them there. They're under patreon.com/theprotectors. Again, it's called The Protector Show. So what exactly is this? Well, it's hosted by Dr. Jason Piccolo. He's a 21-year federal agent and military vet. He interviews guests from best-selling authors to military heroes to everyday protectors. They're closing in on nearly 300 shows. They have a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, which is nearly impossible to do, right? I mean, take a look at our perfect podcast, and how does that show not have 5 stars? We don't know, but somehow these guys do. The Protectors podcasts have done the impossible. They have a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, and for those wrestling fans out there, obviously like yourself, go check out an episode that they have right now. It's called Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre. It's episode number 75. It's in their season 3, and it's with Max Martini, Chris Margettis, and Mike Carey. And they talk about the movie being produced, but also, and one of them is an actual professional wrestler. They started out as a pro wrestler, so check that one out. But guys, the Protectors podcast, you know you can't go wrong with a 5-star rating for this show on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify, YouTube, and of course you can support them on Patreon, and it's run by a 21-year federal agent and a military vet, so you know that you're going to get the real deal and value for your time. So check out the Protectors podcast today.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my honor. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE podcast, everybody. Welcome to 2022, and I hope everyone enjoyed their New Year's. This is not a Raw review. This is not your weekend review. This is not the mailbag. This is a show looking forward. Since I didn't do a 2021 year in review, I figured since I missed the boat on that, I was going to do a year to look forward. I very rarely look ahead, instead just kind of reacting to the moment and ranting about the moment. And instead tonight we're going to be looking ahead to the full year, the full calendar year of 2022, and potential champions who could be returning, any surprises, and it's going to be a fun thing to do here. And in the interest of time, this is not likely going to be a long show. You'll already know the time of the show by the time it's published and you're playing it, but this is going to be as much of my time as I can give you for looking ahead to 2022. And I have not seen the events of Monday Night Raw, by the way. So I have not seen a thing when it comes to Monday Night Raw. And so just to put that out there, I don't watch Raw until usually Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. We also didn't have a weekend review for the first time in, I feel like months to years. And that's because the way that the show fell, no SmackDown, essentially. Raw was already covered. I figured, hey, what are we doing here? Let's take a night off. But we're here to talk about 2022, and let's look ahead, right? Let's start with something fairly easy. I'm going to start with the slam dunks, and then we'll get into the more nitty-gritty and, I guess, long shot predictions that I have. And we're trying to be realistic here. I'm not going to make silly predictions of Stone Cold coming out of retirement or anything like that. These are as educated of guesses as I can possibly give you. So I guess judge my intelligence on this because I thought about this for a while. So, all right, let's get to the rather easy predictions that are the highest in likelihood to come true. And That is a couple of returns on the women's side. Bayley and Asuka returning to WWE, I think, is a absolute slam dunk when it comes to an if, or really a when. Now, I know Sasha had an injury scare over the weekend, and she appears to be okay. She says she's fine, and that's great. But in terms of returns, Asuka and Bayley. And so I guess the question becomes, who returns first, when, and how, right? Not just that they're going to. That's easy. Anybody can make that prediction. But how does it happen, and against whom, and what role they're going to play, babyface, heel? So here's how I see things going down. Let's start with Asuka. Asuka right now, and this is actually according to a report from December 9th, according to Sportskeeda. This is not a news update, but I'm citing my sources so that you guys can go back and look yourself. And this is the latest news from Asuka's the Newswire, and that is that it's not that Asuka's hurt. WWE just has nothing creatively for her. That is according to Dave Meltzer. Now, very conflicting feelings on Dave. I understand that, but I'm going to go with face value here because I don't have another more credible source, and that is that I'm going to believe it. And I'm going to say that WWE really doesn't have anything for Asuka, which is really hard to believe given that their women's roster is paper thin to begin with. But Asuka right now, apparently they have nothing for her from a creative perspective. That's kind of disappointing. But looking ahead, because that's what we're here to do, I do believe that she will return as a babyface, and I believe it will be at the Royal Rumble. That's when I believe we will see Asuka return, and likely go maybe right after Becky Lynch. I think she could be a very credible threat to Becky Lynch's championship. Now, I know Liv Morgan's still out there, and she'll be likely the sentimental favorite if she enters the Royal Rumble, because don't forget, guys, all you have to do is declare you're in it, because that's how it works. You just declare it, which I'm sure we had a lot of declarations on Monday Night Raw that I'll get to in tomorrow night's Raw review, but that's how I see it going down. Asuka returns at the Rumble, maybe even wins it, depending on the Liv Morgan story and how that's going. But that's how I see it going down, or at least she will be a challenger for Becky between now and WrestleMania to have like a stopgap. And she'll be in a babyface role. That's how I can't imagine her being a heel right now. Becky Lynch is starting to actually catch fire as a heel. There's just no way that she returns as a heel. So Asuka, babyface, Rumble, or just beyond that to challenge Becky. Now, does she win the championship? Probably not. Becky, I don't think, is slated to lose until WrestleMania, last I heard. Okay, what about Bayley? Where is Bayley? Well, at the time of her injury in July, the the timetable for her return was around April of 2022, just before or just after WrestleMania. That seems to be moved up. Okay, and the reason I say that is let's see, I'm going to cite the source here. Of course, Sportskeeda. Sportskeeda does some really good journalisming, but she put a post out on Instagram about 3 weeks ago, and put a post to her with crutches and also kind of this like glaring look off to this a very artsy photograph that was taken of Bayley, and she also put a tweet out saying, "Well, I want to wrestle." That was on December 18th, and she then went on an Instagram live feed and said, "People are asking me how my knee is. So my knee is doing great. My leg's doing great. My ankle's doing great. My shin and so forth. My mind, everything." So she says, "I mean, it's only a matter of time. I'm not going to tell you when, and I don't want all these idiots watching to know when, but I'm going to be coming back soon. Maybe you better be ready. Better be ready," said Bayley. So it's clearly, I think that the timetable has been moved up. Now, how far moved up? Perhaps Rumble. She could also return at the Rumble. I have a feeling that Asuka and Bayley both re-debuting and returning at the Rumble would be fun, especially given the fact that the women have a tough time filling the actual Women's Royal Rumble with 30 active competitors. I mean, you have to bring out every year the women of yesteryear. They always have to have Molly Holly and Trish and Lita make cameo appearances to fill the void that is the women's division. It's kind of sad. And so having 2 additional spots with 2 returns with 2 credible current performers, wrestlers, would be welcome. And I think that having Bayley return at the Rumble would be the absolute earliest. But also, I think not just returning at the Rumble, but again, in those weird interim pay-per-views that it seems like there's 8 pay-per-views now between the Rumble and Mania. That to me is going to be likely where Bayley returns, probably around the same time Asuka returns. Now, Asuka's probably going to Raw, I think. I think Bayley's going to go to SmackDown and challenge Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship and likely will win it. And Bayley could return as a babyface. In fact, I think it's somewhat likely she returns as a babyface. I know you have Sasha out there as the beloved babyface, at least for now, although Sasha turns more than the Big Show does. So, Bayley is great as a heel, but maybe they try the babyface return with her. Every time a heel leaves and comes back, they get cheered out of respect, and then they see how the reaction's taken and if they want to go down the road of a heel again or if they want to ride the wave of the babyface reaction. And so we'll see. We'll see. But that's what I would say about that. And what's funny is every time that the Rumble winner wins every year, now there's 2 of them, they always wait to make their decision. And if they don't wait, WWE is kind of, they put themselves in a weird spot because say last year Edge wins, right? And he did win. And he was trying to make a decision between the WWE Championship and the World and the Universal Championship. And obviously he chose Roman Reigns in the Universal Championship, and Daniel Bryan got put into the match as well. But I remember Edge taking forever to make that decision. But if that person makes the decision the night after Rumble, which to me would be more fun than stringing it out, the problem with that though is, the fans know it's great. We've got a WrestleMania main event set. Now you've got 2 pay-per-views in between Rumble and Mania. So if you don't deliver on the match that you said you were going to deliver on, now you're, going to have them face another opponent, but for that same belt that they said they wanted to challenge for. And it also tells the fans usually that, okay, I've chosen Roman. That means Roman's not losing the belt for 2 months, right? It's just kind of weird. It's a weird place to be in for WWE, but that's not what we're here to talk about. That's my 2 thoughts on the returning Asuka and Bayley. Now, what about the big question? Everybody wants to know this, and including myself. Roman Reigns, does he lose the Universal Championship in 2022? And if he does, who's the guy to do it? Okay, this is tough. This is really tough. Because here's the kicker. I don't think there is anyone currently on the roster active that is deserving of beating Roman Reigns, and not even deserving, worthy of defeating Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, given the run that Roman Reigns is on. It's a legendary run that he's on. It's one that we'll remember for a long time, and I don't think there's anyone currently on the roster that could beat Roman Reigns believably, nor should anyone currently in the roster, including Brock Lesnar, especially Brock, should not beat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Why? I will continue to say this because it's the end-all, be-all when it comes to the purpose of the streak being broken, is that it needs to be somebody young and worth building on. That's, to me, worth breaking. Now, many people have pointed to Braun Breaker as the potential opponent for Roman that could finally beat him. Maybe. I think there is something there. I think fans want to see that, and he could be a very credible threat and a young guy that they could use to build around. So, answer question number 1. Does Roman Reigns lose the Universal Championship in 2022? My answer? No. I don't believe he loses the Universal Championship. Why? Because there's nobody worthy right now. I don't know if they have time to build up somebody worthy enough to face Roman, especially in time for WrestleMania, for sure. I mean, they've only got 3 months now. And also, you want this to go to an insane length where people are just still shaking their heads that Roman Reigns is champion. I want to be able to see him go all the way to WrestleMania 39 and lose it. Now, does that mean The Rock has to be the one to beat him? There is a case to be made for The Rock to beat him. Now, I just said I want youth to build around. But given that how strong of a connection that Roman and The Rock have in terms of family, a storyline built in, can they do it and have it make sense? Yeah, they can. But again, you're also wasting it on The Rock, who doesn't need it at all. And you're not going to build around The Rock, who's going to be there for like 2 matches and then go back to Hollywood, presumably. That's my 2 cents on that. But if Rock faces Roman this year at WrestleMania, I think there's still an opportunity, or at least a strong case to be made for The Rock to beat Roman. Again, it all comes down to, does WWE feel that it needs to be a younger talent they can build around, or are they just going to go with whatever is the biggest headline marquee main event and Roman loses there? That's the key. While I would prefer youth, WWE has a lot of times proven time again. Hell, they just proved it at the day one pay-per-view with Brock Lesnar beating Big E. That a lot of times it's not about necessarily if it's the right person in the moment, if it's just the right moment and the star power is there, that they just pull the trigger. Instead of looking long-term, they often look short-term to pop a rating and to get people talking. It also speaks to their inability to produce big stars. Their continued ineptitude of being able to build the new stars and big stars and young stars. It's a problem, big problem. There's nobody on the roster currently that is a believable threat to Roman Reigns. So, other than Drew, but he's not a spring chicken. So, I do believe that Drew McIntyre, if Roman Reigns is not going to face The Rock this year, it's going to be Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That's my thought. And it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. Although I'm sure I saw something on, I may have spoiled Monday Night Raw and saw some things. But that's how I would do it. Does WWE, are they going to do that? Probably not. They're probably going to go Brock Lesnar and Roman at WrestleMania for like the 18th time. And then I don't know who they have in line for Drew, or it's gonna be a weird WrestleMania season. I mean, very weird. But that's my prediction. So my official prediction is: does Roman lose in 2022? No. Now that's it, right? So that means I don't really have to answer the second part because that would have been who. I don't have a who. If you're gonna put a gun in my head and say he has to lose this year, who's it going to be against? I'd say Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. That's what I'd say. Or Rock at WrestleMania. Those are really the only 2 acceptable choices. Everything else doesn't make sense. Now, Brock Lesnar, on the other hand, who does he lose to and how? So does Brock Lesnar remain champion through 2022? No, he does not. That's my answer. So the question is, who beats him? Good question. I think it could be Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley could be the one to beat Brock Lesnar. And it could be Roman Reigns that screws Brock out of his own championship, shows up in his match, distracts him on the outside, spears him when a referee's down. It helps out Bobby. They're both heels. And that's how I think we get to Roman and Brock again at WrestleMania, if it's not Drew and Roman, or Rock and Roman. So that's my prediction. Brock loses in 2022, probably to Bobby Lashley, very in short order. I would expect Brock not to be WWE champion for long. And also, it's going to be Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns not losing in 2022. So that leads to big returns. That's my next section here. Big returns. Who, I'm not punning the New Day here, literally just who, I can say it normally, is going to return in 2022. Beyond, I just said Asuka and Bayley, but I'm talking like maybe legend returns or people that have been fired that WWE can bring back. I really do believe that Braun Strowman will make his way back to WWE in 2022. I believe that. Probably not till midsummer. I don't know why. I'm feeling midsummer for that particular return. I think that is where we have a Braun Strowman return. He's too big of a man, and WWE may come up with something creatively in the next couple of months to go, maybe we can do something with this big dude and have him face Omos or have him face, I don't know, I was going to say Commander Aziz, but that's laughable. But work with some of the newer talent. There's new matchups, and so forth. So I could see Braun Strowman returning in 2022. I think it's the most likely to return in 2022. Bray Wyatt, I would say no. I think Bray is done, at least in 2022. Many people believe he's going to show up in AEW. I know that I've been waiting for it myself in AEW, waiting to see the headline, waiting, all that, nothing yet. Maybe he's still recovering mentally, whatever he's got to do. But I don't expect Bray Wyatt to be in WWE this year. It doesn't mean he'll never come in and never be back. Maybe in 2023, he's easily a Hall of Famer. I think that certainly we're going to see eventually Bray Wyatt back in WWE, just not this year, because that's what we're focused on, is 2022. So, what about potential great matchups? Potential matches of the year that either we haven't seen or have seen, and WWE and those wrestlers could exceed once again. So here's my thought. How about this? Randy Orton, AJ Styles. How about that? Randy Orton, AJ Styles. Those two are on the same brand. They work very well together. We've seen it in the past. That's going to be fun. So that's my thought. How about, let's see, Edge versus Kevin Owens. How about Edge versus Kevin Owens? I think that'd be a lot of fun. The promos between those two would be a blast. Outside of that, on Raw anyway, I'm looking. You already work with Seth, obviously. And, Riddle? How about Edge and Riddle? Edge and Big E? Edge and Austin Theory? Just throwing a few names out there. I think Edge and Bobby Lashley be fun too. So once Edge moves on past The Miz and they have their tag team match with the husband and wife tag team versus husband and wife, then we can get back to regularly scheduled programming and have Edge go into a program that is beyond The Miz. I'll just say that. Let's see. What else could possibly happen? Let's talk about Bianca Belair. We haven't talked about her at all. She's on the Raw women's roster. Who does WWE go with to face her? Good question. Let me answer that. I think that we have Bianca Belair eventually face Rhea Ripley. I think that's going to happen. Bianca Belair versus Becky again could absolutely be a fun story going into this year's WrestleMania again. Alexa Bliss. I didn't mention her as a return. Yes, she will return. And in fact, I expect her to return just before or at the Rumble. That's what I also think. So Bianca Belair, I do believe, also will be women's champion in 2022. There's no question about it. She will have another big run. And as I'm looking, for kind of blanks and giggles, I was looking at the women's roster on Raw and SmackDown. I'm counting, and I got to take out the people that have already been fired. Let's see. Bianca, 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Dewdrop's 4. Selena Vega, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. Not counting somebody that already got. Okay, so 22 individuals have gotten or are on the women's roster on SmackDown and Raw. That means there's 8 spots to fill. Of course, I did not include a returning Bayley and Asuka, so there's 24. So WWE right now has 6 spots open to fill in the Women's Royal Rumble, according to the latest roster. That could mean, again, cameos, NXT call-ups. I hope that we don't have Toxic Attraction move to Raw. Like, I love what Mandy Rose has done on NXT. I still actually pay attention a little bit. I do. I know I said I don't watch it, but I pay attention enough to know what's going on, and her look, everything about her, the group that she has seems to be really rolling. So I wouldn't touch that. But there could be some call-ups there. So they got 6 spots to fill, according to my math. So the women's division in 2022 should get much more interesting. Now, here's another big question. Ronda Rousey Does Ronda Rousey return in 2022? I would say no. However, the 2023 Royal Rumble, I would look out. Because I believe she's going to want to take one more year with her child and to be a mom and do whatever she wants to do. And eventually she'll be going back to wrestling, probably looking at the Rumble of 23. That's what I believe. Now, could I be wrong and she shows up at SummerSlam? Yes. Yes, I'd actually give that a solid chance. But more than likely, it's going to be in probably a year. That's the way I'm thinking. Ronda has given no hint that she wants to go back right now. She doesn't need the money, certainly. And I would love to see Ronda back because I think she's just a perfect heel. People need to open their eyes to her personality, which is really just atrocious, I got to say. I mean, Ronda Rousey, I don't know if it's a work or a shoot or a worked shoot, whatever. I don't care. My reaction's still the same. She is just an arrogant, just, I don't know what it is. Like, Ronda Rousey rubs me the real wrong way. And that's a good thing if you're a heel. Like, I want to see somebody beat the holy hell out of her. So I would say Ronda, more of a chance in 2023, but possible in 2022, at least at SummerSlam. So who's going to dethrone Charlotte Flair? Well, I think you have Xylee out there floating around. As I said, you have Bayley. I think Bayley is probably the most likely. But the thing is, if you're going to have Bayley return, you got to have her as a babyface to take it off a heel. You can't have heel take it off a heel. No one's going to care. So there's that. I mean, the SmackDown Women's roster is anemic. Let me give you the names for the SmackDown Women's roster. Charlotte, Naomi, Aaliyah, Toni Storm's gone, Sasha Banks, Shayna, Xylee, Natalya, Shotzi, and they had B-Fab. She's gone. So really, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 women on the SmackDown roster. 1/8 of the SmackDown Women's roster is champion. I mean, what's the math on that? Like 12% of the women's division on SmackDown is champion. Is the SmackDown Women's champion? I mean, like, I know I'm being a little bit kind of bending the numbers. Well, not bending the numbers. I guess it's alarming, right? That the depth problem on SmackDown is insane. Same with Raw. I mean, Raw, of course, has a little bit deeper of a roster given the amount of time that they have, but still, I mean, wow, 8 active women. And yes, I did not count Sonya Deville because she doesn't really wrestle and she hasn't had a match yet. So Naomi, though, I expect to get revenge on Sonya Deville in short order, for sure. So let's see. I'm trying to look at my notes here, see if I covered everything. I mean, there's 100 different things I could talk about as far as questions that I didn't answer or scenarios that could happen. How about huge returns? How about legend Hall of Famers? How about like the upper echelon? Rock, does he return in 2022? I would say yes. I'd say yes to get things going with Roman that lead to WrestleMania in LA next year. That's my thought. Stone Cold. Yes. WrestleMania, stunners, and beer. Undertaker. Yes. Likely SummerSlam. Or, no, you know what? WrestleMania this year. Couple of choke slams and a tombstone for somebody. And, you know, people are going to lose their minds. No match. Of course, no match for Taker. Done, over, he's gone. So I think that Undertaker is going to come back for, again, a cameo, greatest hits, choke slams, and tombstones type of appearance. Same with Austin, stunners and beer. And The Rock, more in depth. The Rock has more to provide the business here in terms of a long-term storyline. So I think those top 3 are going to return. I don't think Ric Flair is going to come back to the WWE given the circumstances surrounding the damning Flight from Hell documentary from Dark Side of the Ring. And, I hope we don't see Hulk Hogan in any capacity. I don't want to see him ever again on WWE TV, honestly. You know, I respect the career, but I don't need to see him talking about an H phone or talking about brother or any of that. Yeah, I'm done with that. So hopefully we don't. I don't need to see. I mean, honestly, here's the thing. Trish Stratus has talked about returning and potentially working with like Sasha Banks or something. That'd be fun, but Trish Stratus is not good on promo. I gotta say, Trish Stratus is uncomfortable on promo on the mic. It's kind of weird, but she's a legend. I could see it happening at SummerSlam. I think that's possible. Because remember, we got to look at SummerSlam as like another WrestleMania. WWE does. They're doing it in stadiums now. So absolutely possible. And do I expect anybody from AEW to come back to WWE? Probably not. Right now, it's a one-way street, and I expect it to continue to be a one-way street until further notice. So eventually the things will balance out, and perhaps people will start migrating back to WWE. Maybe if WWE doesn't blackball them and give them minimum pay and scraps for their meals, if you know what I mean. So we'll see. But this is a good year for pro wrestling. The fans are back. I hope the pandemic doesn't wreak any kind of havoc with the fans being in attendance or attendance limitations, anything like that. I hope we are just full tilt. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If there's vaccination requirements, that is what it is. I just hope we don't ever go back to a empty fake fan arena that was the Capitol Wrestling Center, i.e. the Performance Center. I know the WWE did the best they could, but I never want to go back to that nightmare ever again. So, all right. Well, guys, I know this really wasn't a comprehensive, in-depth breakdown of every scenario that can happen with everything, but that's what the mailbag's for. That's what I wanted to lead into is if I didn't answer your question or you want me to talk about a specific topic or what if or anything like that in terms of the mailbag and asking me questions, please send them my way at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet us at wrestling_audio. You can send us an Instagram message at WWE_podcast. So lots of ways to send in your question or just call us. You can call us. We have a voicemail, guys. You have a voicemail. And I just want to make sure I give you the right voicemail here. I'm pulling it up now. Yeah, that number, 518-952-0247. That's the number. So call it, leave a voicemail, and I'll get you on the show. On Wednesday, anyway. Wednesday's night is when we would do the mailbag. So, well, this is a little bit of fun. Again, this is nothing that it's etched in stone. It's just my best guesses going into 2022. Lots of other possibilities, lots of other topics in depth, deep dive conversations we can have. And that's hopefully you guys propose that to me in the mailbag if you so choose. You also can choose to go ad free. Good time to go ad free on Apple Podcasts and on Patreon. Everybody, thank you so much. I'll be back tomorrow with your Monday Night Raw review. Until then, take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.